Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Radio Geonosis, where we talk about Star Wars from a certain point of view. I'm Angie.
I'm Jim.
Today, we're going to be talking about our favorite planets. Do you feel like this is almost like a deja vu?
I feel like I've done this before. I don't know why.
That's because we did, and I erased the show. So now we're going to do it again.
Yeah, because, it's always better the second time anyway.
So today we're going to be talking about planets, but before we do that, we've got some hot happenings this week. I got a couple. All right. We've got 4 then. So this past weekend, Mark, my husband, he got into his Grand Moff Tarkin costume for the first time. Woo! It was his first troop. And we did the Sky Kids event in Chino. So it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of heavy Empire hierarchy there.
Oh, really?
Yes. So it was really, really cool.
So was Director Krennic there?
Yes, he
well?
was. Krennic was there. A Royal Guard. Vader was there.
Oh, my goodness.
Kylo Ren was there. So it was really cool, along with Grand Moff Tarkin.
I see.
So that was really cool. Had a good time. He's looking forward to doing the next troop. So I knew he would be hooked the first time we did it. Second, we have Anakin Skywalker which was Hayden Christensen at the Fan X.
Oh, yes.
And he was given a honorary member from Saber Guild. And what was the name of the name in Utah, the temple in Utah?
Oh, yeah, that's Rusan Temple in Utah.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome for them to do that. It was really cool to see the pictures too.
Yeah.
And Disney, it said that they reportedly pulled the plug on the event, but if he was at Fan X.
Well, they pulled the plug on the panel that they were doing,
Oh,
but not
see.
the whole con. So yeah, he was still present at the con, and him and Ian probably walked around, and they might have done like some signings and stuff, but they just weren't permitted to do the panel.
To the panel, because something may have leaked out.
Well,
who knows?
Yeah, yeah, like Hayden being in Episode 9.
Yeah, something like that, which we all know is probably going to happen. Also, what's going to come out in November or December is a book of secrets of the Jedi.
Oh, yes.
And we talked about last time, which you didn't get to hear because I erased it. We talked about the cookbook that's coming out of Batuu, which I did not see.
Right, yeah, that's basically Galaxy's Edge cookbook. And so you're going to get to see and make all of the recipes that you can experience at the Galaxy's Edge resort at Disneyland and Walt Disney World.
Yeah, I didn't get to see that. I don't think the book's released yet.
No, not yet.
So, but that would be really cool to have.
Oh yeah, if you like to cook and you like cool recipes, the recipes are very interesting, based on what I've seen from previous articles and stuff, and from some of the friends I have that have been to Galaxy's Edge. The food is really cool, and it's tasty, and it's not bad for you. They try to make it kind of good for you, and and it has an in-universe flavor, and
that would be cool. We did a show one time on food, Star Wars food. We'll have to revisit that, because I think that would be cool with Thanksgiving coming up. We did
definitely.
It right before Thanksgiving,
okay. That's
where
cool.
we did one about the different food from Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I would like to redo that. So we'll have to revisit that.
Okay. I eat, so
So what other news do you have?
Well, there's a couple of things that we got going on. Star Wars Age of the Resistance comic series. Rey and Rose Tico came out this week.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, 2 issues. And that brings it up the total to 8. And there's going to be one more. And that's Kylo Ren. And that should be coming out on the 25th of
Just
September.
one comic or one?
Right. One comic.
Okay, so nothing else. Maybe because they can't give out too much.
Well, yeah, I don't know what their plan is in that regard. But, there's been a little Kylo Ren in the Hux comic. There was a little Kylo Ren in the Snoke comic as well. So,
there's a little Kylo Ren in the movie, too.
So I hear. He might be in it. I hear he has a little red lightsaber that goes and then whatever. Also, just released is the Jedi Fallen Order comic series.
Oh, wow.
Which is going to lead up to the video game of the same name. And issue 1 just came out. I read it. It's not bad. I enjoyed it, and it's very interesting. But yeah, that just launched as well, and that should be a 5-issue series as well. And so you'll start seeing one of those every month up until, well, of course, until it's done.
Right, and
So
I believe that the date for the movie is the 19th?
20th, I
The
believe.
20th.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
Well,
so,
it's coming!
Yep. Star Wars Episode 9.
It's coming. I can't wait. I really seriously cannot wait to see this. I told you last time that Jay and Silent Bob, and I believe it was
Kevin. That's Kevin Smith.
Yeah, he said he didn't give it out too much, but he said that the performance that he saw brought tears to his eyes.
Oh yeah, he's an Uber fan like us, and I mean from day one, he's about he's 3 years younger than I am. He was born in 1971.
Oh wow!
And
so you guys are pretty much Star Wars from birth.
Well, I was 9, he was 6.
I was a little older, but I'm not going to tell you.
I'm not. You don't need to. That's fine. But anyway, yeah, he's always been a big fan of Star Wars. I mean, he was one of the first people to give an outstanding review of Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, that he put online. And because he gets it, and I get where I get where he's coming from.
I loved it. I mean,
yeah.
I like it because you see Anakin really struggling there.
Well, and that's the idea. He's essentially he's the Messiah that doesn't want to be one.
Yeah, but a lot of it, in that movie, it kind of was, he's very angry about his mom, but she was telling him, "Come help me." She was giving him hints, "Come and help me."
Well, in
and
his dreams,
he chose to ignore it. So you can't blame anybody but yourself.
Well, and that's the thing, he has to decide, are these true prophetic visions, like true Jedi visions, or are they just dreams? And because he was unwilling to really discuss it with anybody but Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan's going, yeah, it's just a dream. So Obi-Wan was
dreams pass in time.
Right, that's what he said. And
no wonder he wanted to kill him.
Well,
It's like, you know what? My mom was really telling me something, and you're telling me dreams pass in time.
Well, you got to understand, Obi-Wan, in Obi-Wan's point of view, he never had a mother.
No, he did, but he didn't.
Well, he was taken, very young, as an infant, so he wouldn't have the attachment to his mother that Anakin does.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not Anakin's fault that he was picked up at 9 or 10. It's just, but it's a fact that the Jedi Order had a lot of difficulty adapting to in training Anakin as a Jedi. And he wasn't the only one. Rael Averross was taken when he was 6, so he was also attached to his family as well.
And I think that's Ahsoka as well too. Right?
Ahsoka was, I think, 3 or 4.
Oh, okay.
A little younger, maybe even younger than that. I'm not sure. Maybe 2 or 3. I don't know the specific age. She was walking from when Plo Koon found her.
Right.
But anyway, so you got all that going on, and
don't you just like the way we just got off the beaten path?
Nothing like rambling into different directions. Anyway, let's see if we can segue back into our thing.
Okay, so the rest of the hot happenings. Anything else?
Oh yeah, the comics came out. Also, Disney renegotiated and basically renewed their contract with Pinewood Studios in England.
Oh, wow.
Because that's where a lot of the stuff has been filmed.
What does that tell you? There's going to be more movies then?
Well, naturally, and I would presume that the Benioff and Weiss stuff, which is supposed to be next, will probably get filmed at, Pinewood.
That's terrific. That's terrific news.
And, it also means that they're probably going to be filming some of the Marvel stuff there, too. I wouldn't be terribly surprised. Because, there's a whole slew of Marvel stuff coming at the same time. Because it's phase 4 from them. 4, my goodness.
I haven't seen all the movies.
I've seen them all. It's crazy.
I have a few of them, but I don't have all of them. But let's not get off the beat.
But anyway, so they renewed their contract. The term in the article they used was long term. They didn't specify exactly how long, so it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, it could be 3 years, it could be a week. I don't know. But long term usually probably indicates several years,
Yeah.
probably at least 5.
Yeah, in order to get some of these. I'm really looking forward to the Game of Thrones guys doing stuff, and especially if it's Old Republic.
That would be awesome because I would love to see something that's way before all of them,
Yeah,
before Yoda,
before the
before,
dark times.
well, they had their own dark times,
Yeah.
You need to talk about the possibilities. If they are going to be adapting things like KOTOR or Tales of the Jedi or even,
Revan.
yeah, yes.
My gosh, go back even farther, 25,000 years,
Well, yeah,
going
you can
back
talk about
to
the birth of,
Nihilus or whoever.
or you can talk about like Frida Nad and Marka Ragnos, founding the Sith Empire,
Yeah.
or possibly the Jedi um, before the rift between the dark side and the light on
Yeah.
Tython, you know, or possibly even seeing Octo being brought back to the very beginning, where like 5 or 6 dudes, or people just hanging out, going, "What is this force stuff that we're feeling?" And they have no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
They're just experiencing it for the first time.
Yeah. I think we may see something that has to along the line of battles in order to make it really kind of,
Oh yeah.
gripping, and almost like Lord of the Ringish kind of big battles kind
Well,
of
yeah,
thing.
and I would presume that there's a possibility of that. And if they bring in EU material like the Rakata, which is the Infinite Empire, or Zim the Despot, which is something that came out of the original Han Solo trilogy from
Wow.
1980, there's stuff going on.
They can pull from anywhere.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that Disney now they're going to have their streaming. It's going to go live. Just like we were talking about earlier with the Mara Jade, there's a possibility, we don't know if this is true or not, that there could be a series, but in order for them to have enough content, they could pull from all over the place. And so, now they have the extended universe they can pull from.
Mm-hmm.
And they've just got a plethora of things.
Yeah.
They can go on till infinity and beyond.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, so today's show is, Jim's falling asleep. Today's show is about our favorite planets. So I have 5 favorites. I'll go first, number 1, and then we'll do number 1 like that.
Yeah.
Just like we did last time before I erased the show.
Yeah.
So Alderaan is my number 1 pick.
Okay.
Was a planet of culture, education, a peaceful planet, the exporter of wine and art and luxury goods, ruled by a queen.
Damn right.
And that's what I liked about that planet.
Alderaan, I mean, they were a center for culture, and they were one of the original core worlds of the Republic.
The Beverly Hills of the galaxy, if you will.
Probably. I mean, they didn't look very poor. They probably could afford that, those sweet 22s on their car.
On their ships?
Yeah, they got some, chrome rims on their ships. And yeah, I love the location. I love the architecture and the
Agreed.
environment. Lots of mountains, lots of forests.
Before it got blown up, yes.
Well,
Sorry if you haven't seen that movie. I just
spoiler alert!
just spoiled.
For the 1977 film Star Wars: A New Hope.
Some people haven't seen it, believe it or not. I run into people all the time. I've never seen a Star Wars movie. I'm like, get away now.
Where in the pop culture world have you lived?
Not that one.
Yeah.
So what's your number 1?
My number 1, I'm gonna go with an expanded universe planet called Tython. It's in the deep core, closer to the core than Coruscant. It is where the Jedi basically started as a larger group and expanded and began their service to the Republic.
Yeah, it's really cool. I had that in my encyclopedia, and that is really cool to read about.
Yeah, it's a natural world. Lots of, again, similar to Alderaan in the sense, maybe a little warmer, perhaps. Alderaan had a lot of snow, but But Tython is very pastoral, very lots of mountains and forests and nature and rivers and that kind of stuff. And they had a Jedi temple there.
Has to be tranquil because
And,
it's Jedi temple.
well,
yes.
there was also another. What made Tython interesting is that it had a Force nexus, and the interesting thing about that Force nexus is that it required the Force to be in balance for the planet to be peaceful.
So you had the dark and the light in order for it to survive.
Exactly.
Just like day and night.
And it had two moons, one called Ashla and one called Bogan. Ashla was the light side, Bogan was the dark side. Excuse me. And if the balance of the Force was askew for whatever reason, there would be storms, and the storms would kick up,
Wow.
and yeah,
Like people
and,
get it together.
yeah, like be neutral, and like okay, fine.
So everybody had to in order to keep the weather nice.
Right, and it worked, and
That's really interesting.
yeah, and so, but that's pretty much it for.
That's why I have Jim on the show.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Number 2, Coruscant, the planet. This was the planet that was like Washington D.C. It was the core of everything. This is where the Senate was. This is where all the deals went down, the dirty and the good deals.
Yep.
You know, this is where if you got in trouble, you went to, you know, like Newt Gunray. He had four different things in the Senate, and they threw it all out. So I mean, this is where this all went down.
Yep.
All the rules, all the everything, you know, for the galaxy, which I really liked. It was a temperature control planet, which they could do whatever. But I guess the day they brought Anakin back to Coruscant, which he was on Coruscant, correct?
Yeah.
When they brought him back after he was burned, it was pouring rain. So it's obvious it was a dark time.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you know, and Emperor Palpatine,
he said, "Make it rain, baby," and I don't mean money.
Yeah, well, he wanted it. He likes it a little dark, and
a little.
Well, okay.
He lives for it. He lives for it.
Yeah, I guess.
All right, Jim. Number 2.
My number 2. Let me think.
You have to remember from last time.
Well, I may not match exactly to last time, but I'm gonna go with Nar Shaddaa.
Oh wow.
That is the smuggler's moon. It is the moon of Nal Hutta, which is the homeworld of the Hutts. It is like a little Coruscant because it's a moon, but it is also entirely city. A lot of deals go down there.
Gambling and
gambling.
Like Vegas.
And trafficking and maybe drugs and maybe gambling and
death sticks kind of thing.
All kinds of death sticks and spice and illegal arms and all kinds of crazy stuff. Now, there are no good deals in Nar Shaddaa because it is controlled by the Hutts, and
which are like snake. They remind me kind of like of slugs.
Well, that's exactly right. And think of a snail without the shell.
Yeah, and I don't understand how they would have so much power being so icky, but whatever.
Well, the history of the Hutts is a whole other story. That could take an entire episode.
Yeah, we won't do that today, but we will do that. That's an idea.
That is an idea. So anyway, but Nar Shaddaa, yeah, you go there. If you're going there, you're either doing something illicit or you're running away from something and going to hide, because it's easy to hide there because you just get lost in the urban
minefields.
Yeah.
Number 3 for me, Scarif. This planet is like Hawaii. It's a tropical planet. It's got the clear water. Looks like it has great surf. It's cool looking. It was hiding something pretty bad. The Citadel was pretty bad. It had a lot of Sith secrets, and I mean, it's almost, it's kind of like a beautiful flower, but if you touch it, you get poison kind of thing. That's what it kind of reminds me of. It was really cool. I loved it in Rogue One, but a lot of death happened there, but the look of the planet was cool. It was all ocean. It was, beaches and
right.
It was like a whole island. A whole planet of Hawaii.
A planet of Hawaii.
Or of the Bahamas, if you will. It was like that.
Yeah. Um,
How about for you? Number 3.
3. My number 3, I'm going to go with Kashyyyk. Good relations with the Wookiees.
Yes. The
Um,
planet of tree houses.
it is all about the treehouse. A beautiful natural planet with huge trees. They're called Rocher trees, and it's been the homeland of the Wookiees forever and ever and ever and ever. And they live in the trees, and they live in tree houses that ring around the trees. These trees are very large. They can be anywhere from 50 feet in diameter to 100 feet in diameter. They're huge, and it's just a beautiful place. And like I said, the Wookiees live there. They live in communion with nature. They don't have a lot of technology that's like obvious. They have
They're techie people that don't like it to look that way.
well, yeah, they don't rely upon it. They have the necessary things like communications and starships and stuff like that, but it's not clogging up the airways there. They fly from they go from tree to tree. In the usual ways. But what's interesting is that everything is like at a level, and the thing about with Kashyyyk is that the natural order of ecology in terms of flora and fauna, birds and bees and whatever, they're at different levels. Like, so if you're at the Wookiee level, it's like normal civilization, but you go deeper and deeper, it gets more wild.
Wow.
And so the Wookiees, as part of their coming of age ceremony, they would go down to the surface to hunt, and they would hunt various and sundry creatures down there to prove their worthiness as a Wookiee.
I imagine there's no porgs there.
No, nah, they would have been hunted to extinction, because they're tasty and
they're like chickens.
Yeah, they taste like chicken.
Rob and I have a running long joke about the porg and beans. All right, number 4 is Jeddah. I like Jeddah. It's a planet where people are looking for deeper purpose. It's a world of ancient spirituality. And I really liked, we talked about it last time, but you didn't get to hear it because I erased the show. There were the statues, but they're on the ground now. And it almost reminded me of Lord of the Rings when you saw the 2 kings on the river. It almost reminded me of that kind of
definitely.
situation.
And then in terms of scale and stuff, it's about the same too. I mean, when you're watching Rogue One and you see the U-wing flying across, and it's like flying near one of those statues that are on the ground with the Jedi holding his lightsaber. I mean, it's flying for a while next to it. It's not like, so you're looking at a statue that was probably anywhere from 500 to 600 feet tall. Taller than like most skyscrapers.
Yeah.
On Earth,
but it was meant because they had the temples there, the Temple of the Wills, but it also had a lot of kyber crystals there.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if the kyber crystals weren't mined or they were mined, because I know that one of the planets it isn't mined. It's the one where the Jedi had to go get.
Well, that's Ilum.
Ilum, yeah.
Now, my guess for Jeddah is that the kyber crystals that were there weren't necessarily used for anything other than for worship, in a sense, because the groups that lived on Jeddah to worship the Force in their various ways, there were more than like a dozen Force cults that served the Force in their various and sundry ways, but none of them were Jedi directly. And I still don't know what the relationship between the Jedi Order and Jeddah as a planet was. But they definitely followed the Force, and they definitely followed it in different ways. And
maybe they were protectors of the crystals and the wills.
Yeah, possibly.
They were more protectors. They did have some sort of Jedi power, but not Jedi power, if that makes sense.
Well, you could call it generic Force user.
Yeah.
And we could, go back and forth all day about, well, was Chirrut Imwe a Force user? Maybe not directly.
Not directly, because I don't think he was properly trained.
No.
Because at this point we don't have, we're in the middle of
in between episode 3 and 4.
Yeah, we're in the middle of that. So there's there's that 17 years
But
of where
the
there's no Jedi.
but
So
the
who can be taught?
well, but the Guardians of the Wills, I think, weren't trained like Jedi.
Right, because they weren't on the they
They
weren't
weren't
on
part of the
Coruscant,
Jedi Temple.
yeah.
They weren't part of that order. They were a different group, and they probably had, they had their, the Zamashiwo, which is their martial art, and of course they had weapons training.
And some sort of belief in it, because
Well,
Chiro,
they definitely believed in it.
he called it out. I'm one with the Force, and the Force is with me, and he knew to say that.
Yeah.
And he believed it, and he it actually worked to his advantage until the very end of his.
Definitely.
If you haven't seen Rogue One, I'm sorry, I just did another spoiler.
Spoiler for 2016
Yes.
Rogue One.
Which
a
was
Star Wars story.
such an excellent story.
I cried.
For a story that was made up after the fact, the fact of the fact. This was excellent.
Well, that was
and
just literally like 2 lines of.
It sewed everything together,
Oh, yeah.
and I loved it. I absolutely love it. There is another raid out there. There's another Pokemon raid out there.
Well, we'll discuss the Pokemon raid after.
All right. So, Jim, number 4 for you.
Oh God, I forgot.
We got to talking about Pokemon.
Actually, well, Jeddah is on my list as well. So
it could be yours too. There's plenty of Jeddah.
Because I love Jeddah. Because Jeddah's just so cool in the Holy City. One thing I like to mention about the Holy City, I do not know what the filmmakers' intents were, because I did not talk to Gareth about it. I should have. I had him in my hands.
You had him in your presence.
I went to the Rogue One premiere, and I got to meet several people. I met John Knoll, and John Knoll was the guy who pitched the story for Rogue One. He was the guy who did that. And I met Doug Chang, who's the concept artist for everything, from episode 1 forward. And I also got to meet Gareth Edwards, who's the director of Rogue One. And he's a fantastic guy. And I got to take a picture with him. He's really cool. I never asked him this question, and I should have. Or I could have asked John Knoll. But the Holy City of Jeddah, okay? If you haven't seen the movie, I'm sorry. But if you have seen the movie, you'll know that the Holy City of Jeddah is on a big plateau, kind of like mesa thing, right?
Right.
And if you know your history, and you know, Earth history, you'll know that in the late 70s AD, roughly, in the lands of Palestine, which we call Israel today, there is a place called Masada.
Yes.
And Masada is a fortress in Israel, which is very similarly set up. It's on a kind of a big mesa, flat top, and it's set up on top. It looks almost exactly like Jeddah City.
Maybe that's where they got their idea.
I wouldn't be terribly surprised, and it's kind of a cool idea. And, Masada was a very important thing that happened during the Jewish rebellions.
Right.
After
and it's almost follows along the same thing where they all die. If you haven't seen the movie, I'm sorry, I just spoiled it for you. But anyways.
There were Death Stars involved, that's all I know.
Yes, which was terrific. Okay. Number 5 for me, Tatooine. This is where it all started. Was the place Obi-Wan stayed for 18 years, watching over Luke. And it's where, it's much like the desert, like where we live.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote down the notes, so I know to say this again. It's got 2 suns, which sometimes it feels like there's 2 suns here when it's hot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got a really cool look to it. I like the moisture farms, and it really kind of given it. When it first came out, it was almost like a cowboy kind of feel to it, kind of Western feel to it. And so I do love Tatooine.
Mm-hmm.
And so number 5 for you.
Well,
Jim's going to pull it out again because I erased the show.
I remember, because we were all talking about how dark I was, how dark I'm not, and then how dark I became when I ascend. My number 5 is Korriban.
Oh, that's right.
Korriban, which is the homeworld of the Sith.
He's a Jedi, but he's really pulling that out to Sith, so we all know now.
But it's also Moraband in the season 6 of Clone Wars. It's the same planet, though. It is the homeworld of the Sith. The original Sith species, which is a red skin species.
With the tendrils on their faces, which I think a lot of people don't know, unless you have read some of the Star Wars old the EU and things. You get that. It's even in the Sith book, in the Book of the Sith.
Yeah.
It's in that, so it does tell you a little bit about.
Oh yeah, and
that
the
species.
The Sith species is a playable species in Star Wars: The Old Republic video game, which I actually have a Sith.
They had a lot of creepy stuff too. They would a lot of amulets, a lot of
the way they handled the dark side of the Force on Korriban was in a more magic-y kind of alchemy kind of way. So Harry Potter meets death. It's but even eviler.
Yes. We've got our timer going.
But I kind of lost my train of thought. But eventually when Ludo Kresh and Mark Aragnos eventually found the Sith homeworld of Korriban, when they left, the greater part of the Republic, they eventually took over the Sith and they became the first Lords of the Sith, which is where that term comes from. The term Darth comes from the Sith species. And eventually they had the first Sith Academy there. And eventually it became what they called a grave world, which is where all the Sith buried their dead. As the Sith Empire grew and they moved to other planets like Dromund Kaas and Ziost and other places I can't seem to recall at the moment. Korriban ended up becoming a grave world, and it's a very deserty kind of place as well.
I would have liked to have seen what the first Sith offspring were with the humans. It would have been interesting to see that.
Yeah, because they did intermix.
Yeah.
And
it would have been interesting to see,
And I would imagine it'd be like any other intermixing that you could imagine, here on Earth. Some were partially red, some were partially not red. Maybe they had
tendrils, maybe not.
Yeah, they're like the Sith character I play in SWTOR does not have those tendrils.
I'm wondering if some of them, like the children, survived, especially if it was, if it was more of a human woman and a Sith man.
Right.
I don't know if their mating was the same. Could be.
I mean, you could speculate. They're both humanoid species, so I mean, generally in the terms of space fantasy or Lord of the Rings fantasy, those things tend to be compatible in most instances. So they because they don't tend to go too deep into biology.
Yeah. I'm digging too deep, but I mean, it would have been interesting to see. All right, so my honorable mention is Yavin 4.
That's a beautiful place.
Yes, it's where the rebels hide.
Yep.
So I really liked that planet. I liked it because it was a planet of hope. That's where they got together for hope.
And it's also where Poe Dameron was raised by his parents. And that's where Luke Skywalker brought his Force trees after he found them in Shattered Empire. Although those are comic spoilers. Sorry.
If you haven't read them, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Spoiler alert for literally anything we say. Because, if you're listening to this, you're probably a Star Wars fan.
Yes.
And you've probably seen, read, or heard of most of the stuff we're talking about. So, not a terrible surprise.
So, Mikey, the cameraman, he really loves our show. He tells me about it all the time. And I like it to be, like, informational and fun. Almost like an old school Doctor Who show.
Yeah.
Where you're getting that information, and we're talking about like facts and stuff, but we're still having fun with it.
Oh, definitely.
And that's what I really like about it. I sometimes we don't go to the future. I used to say to Aaron, we're more of the pots and pans of the Star Wars podcast shows, where we talk about the pots and pans of Star Wars.
Well, they got to have them too,
Yes, exactly. You got to have that fun stuff.
How do you make, tip tap, and Ronto roasters and all that stuff.
Yes, exactly. So that's going to do it for our show this week. Next week, Jim, you want to do the food show?
We can do the food show.
All right, we're going to do food of Star Wars. So we can go forward, we can go backwards, we have a whole plethora of things that we can pull from.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely. I'm putting Jim to sleep right now.
Oh, sorry. Oh, no, it's just been a long day.
So that's going to do it for us here at Radio Geonosis. Please, please, please follow us on Facebook at Radio Geonosis 2.0. Please like and subscribe on our YouTube channel at Radio Geonosis. We also have an Instagram page at Radio Geonosis.
And we have a Twitter at our Geonosis. And yeah.
Yes, so please do. So from all of us here at Radio Geonosis, we will see you next time.
And
Bye.
may the force of others be with you.